You want to start a podcast, but you have no idea where that start actually is, or how to start, or what to start, or anything like that. But you're pretty sure you want to start a podcast because you know the value in the content that can be created for your business. We are going to help you get started. Did I mention we're going to start? We're going to start right after this. Thank you for tuning in this week. We've got a lot of great stuff to talk about, and I am going to dive right in because there's, good stuff here. First off, let's talk about the technical side of it. That seems super overwhelming. You see the microphones here. You realize that I am talking to a camera. You see the TV screen over here. You see this arm, the table, the furniture. You think, oh my God, where does all of this start? I don't even know what to look at. It all seems so expensive. There's just a lot of things there. First off, audio quality is something that you never, ever, ever want to skimp on. Bar none. The big reason being on that is that video, people will forgive something that's maybe a little bit more suspect from a video quality side of things. Audio, bad audio is just completely unforgiven. It's a hard stop for most people. If you turn on something with bad audio, you're typically going to check out like right away. People will forgive bad video. They will not forgive bad audio. So make sure that you're using high quality audio equipment. Now, that doesn't mean that you need to go out and spend your life savings on audio equipment. That's definitely not the case. In that, you need to find something that's going to fit your budget, that's going to give you the best quality for what you can afford, for what makes sense for you. In a lot of cases, that's why we have the studio here. We've got super high quality equipment because a lot of people use it, which makes it so we can justify high quality equipment even if you can't. It makes it that much easier for you to get that higher quality audio, and while you're at it, that high quality video too. The other thing, what do you want to talk about? Always a big question. What should I talk about on my podcast? Because everyone starts out with usually like 2 or 3 great ideas. I'm going to talk about this and how it relates to that or whatever. About the 4th episode, people typically get into it and they start to think, oh my God, I have nothing left to talk about. That shouldn't be a deal breaker for you. I usually work with people and have them lay out 10 topics at first. Those 10 topics are a huge help because that makes it so you've got a runway of 10 things to talk about. Usually about 5 or 6 people start to lose like, oh my God, what am I going to talk about next? Usually 7, 8, 9, and 10, people start to perk back up and they're like, oh, I can talk about this, that, and the other. They start to get more ideas. They start to come up with some branches that go off of their current topics. That's why we typically say you want to have 10 to 12 laid out ahead of time. That way, as you start to get into it, you can realize that, hey, there's some subtopics over here. Or maybe there's something that I'm missing, or you're going to get a comment that's going to give you a suggestion on a topic to cover. When we do this, like I said, it gives you that runway. It gives you that leeway to work with stuff. That leads into the next thing that I want to talk about, which consistency is king. You guys see me here every day. I'm coming at you in your feed one way or another every single day. That's because I'm in the studio making consistent content. Now, am I in the studio here every day making content for you? No. I'm in the studio making this type of content once a month, typically for about an hour. That makes it so I've got content to release for the entire month. We break it down into separate little pieces, and that way you can see me here on like YouTube Shorts, Instagrams. I mean, if it was a Snapchat or TikTok or any one of those other platforms, including Facebook, LinkedIn, et cetera, et cetera. I almost forgot. How did I almost forget those guys? Nonetheless, you can find me on all those platforms pretty much every day. And I do this about once a month to make sure that we've got the content to put out there. But you have to stay consistent. It's making sure that you're in front of people constantly. It's baffling to me, but you guys seem to like to hear from me, and I'm glad you do. I am glad you do. Something else, when people are having an interview with someone, if they're going to have a guest on their podcast, they run into all sorts of pitfalls there. The biggest pitfall that I see is that people haven't done their research. They've got basic questions to ask someone, and as soon as they're done with those basic questions, they're out, they're done, and it's all surface level stuff that you could really ask someone just in passing on the street. If you're having someone on that has a podcast of their own, make sure that you're watching 3 or 4 episodes of that podcast or listening to 3 or 4 episodes of that podcast. You want to know what they're about. You want to know some of the highs and lows. You want to know some of the great things. You want to know how they're going to react to things. The same thing. If they've got a book that just came out, you need to read that book at least once, if not twice. You need to have that information. Another thing that I like to do is if it's a guest that I know that maybe is within my circle, I'll go back and I'll think about things that they've said that may be related to something them personally or professionally that not everyone might know. Not something private, but it's not something that would necessarily be public knowledge. Those types of tidbits are great to bring out in a podcast. And the biggest thing with that is it shows that you, A, have knowledge of the guest. You've put in the time and effort in the research to make sure it's worth their time. In that, the big return that you get with that is the fact that the people that are watching are going to get information that most people aren't going to get. They're going to know that. They're going to realize that this isn't general, generic information. This is very specific to you and your podcast and to your guest. It's information that you've spent the time to go out and find. That is the biggest piece of that. Now, when it comes to finding guests, I always tell people, look to other podcasts, look to public speakers, look to friends and family that are also, look to people in the industry that run parallel with you. We do a lot of marketing, but we don't do marketing specifically, I guess I would say. So why not have other marketing firms in to talk about stuff? I ride motorcycles, so why not have motorcycle people come in on a motorcycle type of podcast? Once again, it's parallel things. It's make sure that you get parallel guests. If you can't figure out how to get in contact with people, well, then that's a whole nother sport because there's email. And yes, this is one of the few times where I will actually encourage people to slide on into the DMs. Go ahead and message someone. See if they want to come onto your show. Most people are going to jump at the chance to be able to build content like this. The biggest thing that we have to establish before we do any of this is establish your why. Why are you doing this? In most cases, it's to establish or to build that content. You want to build that content, but what is it going to be about? What specifically is it going to be about? Whenever I talk to people about this, I always tell them to picture their specific audience. Who is it? It's one person. Picture that one specific person because that's who your audience is. It always breaks people's brains because they think, oh my God, if I'm talking to just one person, everyone else is going to be eliminated. And that's not the case. You know it's not the case. Have a personal conversation with someone in a crowded room. Other people are going to listen. Even ones that aren't your target audience. Just think about that. With that all being said, if you have a question, by all means, put it in the comments. I would love to hear from you. And moreover, I would love to have you in the studio. We always have a good time here. We take all of the trouble and edge off of running a podcast. Within minutes, you forgot that the cameras are in here and you're just rolling and having a great conversation. And we do all the technical work. We've got this lit fairly well. We've got all the TV screens and all the other stuff in here. We make all the technical stuff go away so you don't have to worry about it. All you have to do, have a great conversation and build that content. That being said, we're going to have more great stuff coming up. Make sure you subscribe, like, follow, all the other happy jazz, and I will see you very, very soon.